It's the second season of the Magical Mommy Monday podcast. Jen and Angela are two moms raised on Disney magic, figuring out parenthood one day, one milestone, and sometimes one meltdown at a time. Thanks for listening and enjoy this week's new episode.
What feels like 7 years ago, we started this podcast.
We did.
And now it has been almost exactly a year tomorrow.
That's right. If you're listening to this on March 1st, on Magical Mommy Monday, then tomorrow is our official 1-year anniversary.
I can't believe it.
Me neither.
Oh my gosh, it's been so fun. I can't believe that we have held this down for that long in quarantine.
Yeah.
Throughout a pandemic, while distance learning.
Yeah.
Is there like a medal that we can get off?
I know, right? Seriously. We need one, obviously. I mean, who else is doing all that? Nobody else in the world.
It's not like people have like started businesses and had babies during a pandemic. I mean, what makes us special?
Right. Learned 5 languages, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's so exciting. And we had no idea what the world had in store 1 year ago. I mean, I think by this point there were like rumblings, like, there's this virus. Right.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Little did we know, 2 weeks later, we would be in lockdown.
Yeah.
And now life, it will never be the same.
It won't. But we had a pretty amazing first year, I would say.
I would say it's been, dare I say, epic?
I know. I mean, I don't think either of us really like had a plan for this podcast or like.
Oh, absolutely not.
No, it was just like, hey, we're moms and we're going to talk about parenting. Let's just see what happens. And like, we've had amazing guests from like the Disney community, children performers. I mean, like there's such a spectrum of people that have come on this podcast, along with our little random mom chats of like speed cleaning and lunches for our kids and whatever else. It's pretty crazy what we did over this last year. I mean, I don't like to give myself props. I'm not one of those people, but I mean.
But like, well done. I don't want to toot my own horn, but beep, beep, right?
We already feel guilty for saying it.
I know. The exciting guests, they don't end. They only continue. Only continue with today's guests. Yes. We have an award-winning family musician. We have a early 2000s, late 90s girl group veteran with us today. Yes. We have an actress, a singer, you name it. We have Twinkle on the show today. She is considered the Lady Gaga for kids. She created the group Nobody's Angel. Maybe you heard of it. They opened for Britney Spears. They were on the Princess Diary soundtrack, the Parent Trap soundtrack. They were on the movie Model Behavior, which is where I first heard of them. She's done a lot.
Everywhere.
She's done a lot.
My goodness. It's crazy.
I hear her talk and I'm like, what have I done with my life?
I know.
Oh, that's right.
As we're like, hey, listen about our podcast.
Yeah. My cute little podcast with Jennifer and while Twinkle was on Boy Meets World. So.
Yeah.
So that is who we talked to today.
Yes. So exciting.
And I guess there's not much else to say. We're just going to let her jump right into the stories.
Yeah, we'll go right into the conversation with Twinkle.
All right. Sounds good. Enjoy. Okay, I have to fangirl really quick because the first time it turns out that I had heard your voice was in the Model Behavior music in the movie. And it turns out that's the first time I saw you too. And like to this day, that's my favorite scene of like any of my childhood like nostalgic movies. Is when you guys are dancing on stage and that song is playing because it's so catchy and like the movie comes full circle and everyone's happy at the end of it. So when I saw that you agreed to be on our show, I like died a little inside. I screamed. It was a very big day for me.
Oh,
the fall ball.
Oh my gosh.
I love that. I love that. Well, I hope that I hope that I answer questions to your liking.
No pressure, but that was a bigger deal than like Justin Timberlake being in the movie. I was like, not anything. I love that
song. So you're sweet. You're sweet. That was actually a really fun movie to do. We went to Canada to film that. It was filmed in Canada, and Justin, of course, you know, he was Justin at the time, right? Like,
oh gosh,
huge. And it was just a really fun experience. I just like a funny story. Like, we were staying at this beautiful hotel that they put us up at, and in the middle of the night, like we had an early call the next morning, and you know, to start filming, and in the middle of the night, the fire alarms go off. In the whole hotel. And we're like, oh my God. So we're like, oh my, and it kept louder and louder. And we're like grabbing our stuff. Cause like, you don't know where you're at half the time when you're doing stuff. And like everyone's running out, and it was a false alarm. It was fans that had, I know fans had set the fire alarm. So we would all come running out in our PJs. And because they knew that Justin was staying there, and we're like, oh, and none of us could go back to sleep. And yeah, it was, but now looking back, I'm like, oh my God, that's hilarious.
I mean, that's like really clever too.
Right? I was going to say it's horrifying and kind of brilliant all at the same time.
Exactly.
Not something I would ever think to do, like, oh, they're staying in that hotel. Oh, well.
Let's pull the fire alarm.
Let's pull that fire alarm. And the funny thing too is if you think about it, it was like pre-social media days. So like, for people to actually know exactly where everybody would be staying and the time frame. I'm like, they were clever because, you know, like nowadays it's like a hit of a button and everybody knows where everybody's at and you put your story and you tag and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, this is pre-social media. So like kind of kudos to whoever thought about it.
No, that is some major sleuthing.
Right?
Exactly. I mean, as an aside, model behavior is impossible to stream. Like I can watch Wish Upon a Star all day on Amazon Prime, but you cannot find model behavior anywhere. So I have to watch little bits of it on YouTube, and it's very sad because it's like 720p and it's
I was wondering if they were going to put it on Disney Plus, but I don't think that's on there. I think like our episode of like Boy Meets World is on there because a lot of people are like, oh my God, I just saw it for the first time.
That was going to be me fangirling.
I looked into it, Jen, before you continue. I looked into it, and it's like it wasn't technically like a Disney production or something like that. Like they didn't have.
They can put it on Disney Plus. We'll start a hashtag.
Right.
It'll go
if
viral.
they can put Horton Hears a Hoop on Disney Plus, then they can put model behavior there.
Exactly.
Yes, I'm gonna pass the fan girl torch over to Jen now.
You guys are fun.
I have to rattle my two dads. My two dads, Boy Meets World, General Hospital. I'm reviewing your IMDb. Like, hold on, let me go down the rabbit hole. Like,
we were like, do you think we can bring this up to her? Do you think she'll like be like, oh gosh, again, another fan? But apparently, I just opened Pandora's box.
It's all good. It's all good. Ask away.
I don't even know if I have questions. I am just like, this is amazing. I love your list. I'm just going like, yeah, I watch that all the time. Yes. And then I may have brought up the clip from Boy Meets World, and I'm like, oh my God, yes, this is embedded in my brain. Of course I remember this.
They were all fun times. Times. And that Boy Meets World episode, like some people know about it, but like it was actually supposed to be like the pilot segue into our own TV show.
Okay.
So Michael Jacobs, who is the creator of Boy Meets World, was slated to write and produce and create like our own, I guess. I mean, it's weird to say like a girl band on Disney saying like kind of like Sex in the City meets the Monkees, right? But you know, like the relationship of four girls and like, you know, making it and but yeah, so that that was supposed to be like the segue, and, you know, so many behind the scenes and so many political things that happen that a lot of people like I've never really talked about it. It'll be probably like in the tell-all book one day. But like, yeah, like it didn't come to fruition. But yeah, that was the Boy Meets World was so much fun, and Ryder Strong and Ben were like amazing. And my two dads, wow, that was like, I was like little, and I hear that's like rerunning somewhere, like, because I've gotten some crazy like random residual checks. I know it's somewhere, but full circle, kind of odd. So yeah, so I've had this like crazy reoccurring gig on General Hospital as like Brooke, the waitress at the Metro Court. And for like a long time, you'd think by now I'd own the Metro Court. It's been like over a decade. But I literally probably, pre-COVID. So isn't that weird how we're like pre-COVID?
I know, right? I know. It's how so time is now.
Yeah, pre-COVID, I did an episode where Greg Evigan, who was one of the dads of my two dads, played this really sinister, like evil guy for like a good arc of like some of the year. And so I hadn't seen him in so long. And so I'm like, I don't know if he'd remember me, because, you know, I was like barely a tween. And so I'm like, I see him and I'm like, oh my God, that's Greg Evigan. And then I walk up to him and I'm like, Greg, I don't know if you remember me, but and he's like, oh, like he totally remembered everything. And it was just so cool to like reminisce and like talk about old times. And you know, he was like, I'm so glad you're still doing what you love. Cause that's like, and that's him too. Like he didn't care, you know, he's like never like the kind of person that's like, you know, I may have a series regular role one day, I might be singing, doing something one day, but like, he's like, as long as you're still doing what you love, that's like the most important thing. So he's cool peeps.
That's awesome. That is so full circle. That's so cool. That
it's crazy.
What are the odds? But
and you've done so much in your career. You've done acting, you've done singing, which involved dancing. The several music videos that I watched before this. Now, after Nobody's Angels.
Angel, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. But now I'm like nervous that you're here, and I'm like, I can't say it wrong in front of her.
Okay, it's a common mistake.
I even had Angel written down, but I'm like, I got to double check. It's okay. What made you migrate further into family entertainment? Because I know a lot of families and kids at the time, tweens, teens, liked Nobody's Angel, but what made you kind of migrate further into the family entertainment with the birth of Twinkle?
So after that chapter, I like to say like life is like a book, you know? So like we have so many chapters. That was a long chapter in the book of life. But when that finished, reality hits, you know? And the weird part is that would have been considered my high school and college years, right? And so I didn't go to college. That was it. It was like hands-on learning the music industry. So coming out of that and having the record label drop you, it's like, boom, reality hits. And you're like, and everybody always thought, oh my God, they must, you know, they were touring and opening up for all these people and all these shows and everything. But the reality is like we're not millionaires. Like we, you know, like that is like such a far cry. Like it's like reality hits are like, oh my God, back to reality. What am I going to do? And even though I had done all these TV shows and started my own shows prior to Nobody's Angel, I did that when I was a little kid. And then as a tween and teen and right after teen, it was like Nobody's Angel. That at the time when that finished, it's not like it is today where everything kind of crosses over and one thing would help the other. So like, oh, she's, you know, former pop girl and this and that, let's get her another TV show or she can no, it wasn't like that. It was, I had to go back to pounding the pavement, and agents would look at my resume and be like, these are all old credits. What have you been doing? And I was like, well, I've been opening up for Britney, charted on Billboard, got a gold record, but they didn't care at all.
Because it was different. Like it wasn't acting. It was
music.
Yeah.
Yes. And it was so different, and nothing was cohesive as it is if it were right now. Like if I was on if I was super successful and had some sort of name, they'd be like, oh, let's figure out a way to cross it over. You know, like that wasn't the case back then. So it's like literally like starting all over. And now I'm an adult. So it's now like super different. You know, it's one thing when you're a kid or a tween, teenager, but now it's like a whole different ballgame. And I still looked really young. So people didn't know how to place me, how to market me, like what to do. Like I was like maybe not young enough to play like teen, like super teen, you know, so it was just like, I fell in all these cracks. So one of my, you know, in LA, and it happens to everybody, right? So in LA, like you have so many side hustles. And so like, you know, I had so many different side gigs, you know, while, you know, because you can't have a full-time job because like have to audition, you have to be available. Cause like, that's the funny thing about show business is agents are like, hey, can you have an audition? And you have to be in LA in an hour. And you're like, but I live an hour away, but they don't care. You just got to figure out a way to get there. Right.
Yeah.
And so now it's easy. You just, you know, pre-tape at home and but like at that time it was so different. And so you had to always be available. So you always have crazy jobs. One of my side hustles was teaching, singing, dancing, musical theater to kids, like literally from the ages of 2 to being a teenage, like all the way to teenagers. And I fell in love with working with the little ones. And at the time, like, I don't know what was in at the time, but it was a lot of the same music that we all listened to growing up and, you know, for kid music. And then some of the shows that were out, I was like, what I realized is parents have to listen to it too. It's not just the little kid, you know, parents or the nannies or, you know, grandparents. And I was like, God, there's got to be better music out there. There's got to be something cooler. So I literally just, it's weird. It came to the whole vision of like my AKA, my alter ego came to me in a dream. And I woke up and I was like, oh my God, like I fully saw it like 100%, like not as myself, but as this alter ego. And I just went with it. And just like that day when I woke up, I had written 4 or 5 songs, like lyric wise, because I don't do music. My husband, which maybe some of you know, Dallas from Youngstown. So he does the music. So like he thought I was nuts and thought I was crazy. He's like, you want to do what? And he didn't get it at first. And that's kind of how I fell into it. And I honestly didn't know I would still be doing it. I didn't have like a goal. I didn't have like my 5-year plan. It's just something that had a vision, put it down on paper. And then when I actually had songs recorded, I think that's when I was like, okay, now what? Like, what do I do now? Yeah, and then that's when I started like literally pounding the pavement and making, you know, like pitching, like as, you know, as my agent, as myself, you know, like myself in third person, picking up the phone and pitching people like, you got to see this amazing thing. So that's kind of what I did. And doors started opening up and it took a long time for it to grow, but here we are.
Well, and what I love about your sound is that for family entertainment music, for you know, kids music, it's very mature. You know, it's not that stereotypical.
I hear you. I got you.
It's a mature sound that it's like I would just kind of listen to on my own.
Yeah. Yes. And so, okay. So like if we back up like to my first album, people were like, oh my gosh, it sounds so much like you sound different. Like, but the thing is, it's like, I was kind of nervous, not really knowing the family space, but only hearing what I've heard. And so if you listen to way back first original album, it was music but I also like it was still pop, but I would change my voice because I've also done voiceovers to make it sound younger.
Yeah.
Because I was afraid that because my normal singing voice is I'm an alto, it's low, it's husky, it's like, you know, people are like, oh, it's like sultry, whatever. And I was afraid that people would be like, this is for kids, you know, like I was afraid of that. So I didn't want to like, I didn't want people to be negative about it. So I was like, really like, okay, maybe I should just do it like this. But then what started happening was when I started doing live shows, you can't really sing like that, you know, because it's like, that's like a voiceover. That's what you did in front of a mic. But when you're singing live, you got to sing how you normally sing. And parents would be like, you sound so much better live. And then I would tell them, they're like, no, just do an album like the way you normally do. So the second album, I didn't want it to be so drastic. So then I started kind of changing it. By the third album, like people started getting to know who I was. So I was just like, okay, like it is what it is. And this is the music I like. And I write positive messages, you know, like that's my thing. It's like, you know, I like Cardi B, but I'm not writing Cardi B music, but like, or lyrical content, but like, it's just still cool, you know?
Yeah.
Like that, like you said, parents can listen to it after they drop their kid off at school and they can like jam out to it in the car.
Yeah. And as you're saying with the positive messages, that's what I was taking away is they're like inspirational songs. And as you're listening, you're like, oh wait, I'm like getting pumped up from this. Like, yeah, I could do this. Like, you know?
I love that. That's the thing. It's like, I'm a big cat at heart, as you can see. Like, so I think when we get older, we get a little bit jaded, right? Like, or things happen in our lives, but I feel like it's just messages that we forget as adults or as we get older. So and I've had people like, oh my gosh, like you just took me back to like me being this like 5 or 10 or 12. And yeah, you're so right. Like, yeah, we can dream big. We can achieve whatever it is that we want, you know? So it's just like putting somebody back in that moment. Maybe it's a message they forgot, you know, that it's so simple, but you know, as we get older, it's our daily lives. And it's just also something that, you know, I want to instill in little kids to be like the best humans they can be in life.
Yeah. And I think that's huge, especially right now. And this, we were talking before we started recording, how crazy 2020 was and is kind of continuing. But, you know, I think that those messages are more important than ever. And especially for kids who have been in and out of school and parents who have been in and out of work or just their work environment has changed or whatever it is. I think any kind of positive message you can get right now, the more, the better. And it's so great to know that it's out there.
That to me is so important. Like 2020 was hard.
Yeah.
Like for every single person. And I don't know how, like you have to give it up to little kids too, or even teens and tweens, especially like the ones that were about to graduate and like all of a sudden they don't have their winter formal and their prom and like can't even get their diploma. They have to drive up and like wave to their teacher. Like so much of like what is a part of being a senior or being a kid was changed in a blink of an eye. And then like parents now somebody has to stay home so they can set up Zoom and or co-teach, you know, like it's hard. And my parents are teachers still, like they should have retired a long time ago. They don't even know how to use technology, but they figured out Zoom. So good for them. But like, it's so incredibly hard, period. And then for what I do, my livelihood was touring and I would tour 320 shows a year. That was gone like a magic trick, like poof, gone. And not just it hit me, but my husband, DJ Dallas, like this is all we do.
Yeah.
And so we were like, oh my God. So did I cry? Of course I cried, like a lot. And I was like, oh my God. Cause there's so many things that I had worked 5 years to get a gig for 2 weeks in China that I finally was supposed to happen last year. You know, like all these things, right? So it's just like, oh my God, what do we do? And so thank gosh, I mean, maybe I am a strong person. I am like the Energizer Bunny, but I think being in this industry for as long as I have gave me kind of like that thick skin, like, okay, cry it out, but put your big girl pants on, and you've already reinvented yourself 5 gajillion times. You got to do it again, you know? And so, and the virtual space, I'm not a techie. I had to figure that out, still figuring it out. But, and knowing that it wasn't just me that this was affecting, it's like everywhere around the world.
Yeah.
So, and I honestly cannot believe that we're still here. But as we were saying before we hit the record button, I was like, I'm so, it's had its good things too. Like a lot of pros, like I've gotten to meet so many of my own peers around the world. So it's been cool.
Yeah.
With how, many times you've had to evolve yourself professionally, and that just, in general, the pressures of the business, how do you stay true to yourself?
That's the only thing you can do. The industry can eat you up so bad. Like, there's so many people pulling you in every direction, especially like when you're signed, wanting to change you, wanting to even for girls. And this is something I've always had to go through. It's like, I never looked a certain way. So agents and managers, oh, you need to get a nose job, or you need to do this, or you need to lose 10 pounds. And I'm thinking, wait, at the time, maybe I was already 100 pounds. So that would put me, really, like, you want me to lose. So there's all these things. And I think the older you get, you just gain a self. You gain, what you're worth, right? You gain a self-confidence, maybe not in a bad way, but you're like, wait, what? You want me to do what? And so I think you have to always be authentic to who you are, never give in to the pressures of the outside world, and never follow what other people are doing. Like, you always have to just do you and what makes you happy. Because that's the industry, still to this day. So it's like, people will be like, why are you doing that? Why can't you do it this way? Well, this is what I want to do. And there's no other person that's going to sell it as hard as I can, but this is what I feel. So I think, it is hard, but you just have to make a commitment to yourself, basically. Like, no, I'm going to stay true to me.
Yeah.
Would you say that is part of your inspiration for those core values that you teach, like self-worth and respect for others, empathy?
For sure. And I think I was also really lucky because I have amazing parents. Like, that was taught at home. My grandparents lived with us, and also I'm Peruvian. So, and my dad is Romanian. So I grew up with 2 different cultures and also 2 different religious backgrounds. So my dad's Jewish, my mom is Catholic, and they're very old school in thought and in thinking. And so I was just lucky to be brought up with really amazing values that they instilled in me. And the number one thing, because of my parents' differences in religious, differences and cultures, they allowed my siblings and I to kind of explore and to accept everyone and to be always inclusive at 100%. And so that's just been something that I think was just instilled from the day I was born, so, and it's just important to me because maybe there are kids or families that maybe aren't as lucky as I was to have amazing parents, in my life that taught me all those awesome things.
That's a perfect segue too, because I was going to ask about your childhood, kind of rewind all the way, because you have been performing from such a young age, and you were in the spotlight from a young age, and some that start on that path don't end up with such positivity as you have. So I think you talking about your parents, that that plays a huge factor. And knowing that they're teachers, I think that's a big part of it as well. Can you tell us more about your childhood and when you started knowing this is what you wanted to do?
Of course. I've always been that kid that has been creative with this big imaginary world, but I was also really shy. But I was always the kid at home putting on shows for my grandparents, right? And so I think my mom was like, okay, let's. My parents didn't know anything about showbiz, they're teachers, and I even though I grew up in California, I'm more of a little tiny suburb outside of Los Angeles. Okay. So they didn't know anything about the industry. They stuck me in our hometown dance school, and I discovered in dance class, because they would do these productions, that I was able to sing. And my dad, being a trumpet player in high school and in college, was like, where did she get a vibrato? And my mom's like, what are you talking about? What's a vibrato? So I was like this little kid with this big, like Ethel Merman, Judy Garland type of voice. And so it was my dance teacher that kind of encouraged me to start doing musical theater. And so my parents, not knowing anything about it, they said, look, we will support whatever you want to do as long as you maintain your school, your grades. If they go below a certain grade, we will pull you out of everything. And so I was like, oh, and also too, as a kid in showbiz, you have to have a work permit to work. And you have to maintain above a C average. So like, if you don't, then you just don't get a work permit. Mm-hmm. So I was always like, okay, I have to do good in school. So I think being like a kid in the biz, like you grow up very fast. Mm-hmm. So for me, like, going to school and being with my friends was like my time to be a kid, because the second I left school, I was now in a work environment with adults and having to put on that, grown-up hat and like be professional and know my lines and act like a little adult. So it was, you do grow up fast, but my parents made sure that we were grounded when we got home. And my parents did, I think, something really cool. Like kids would be like, well, how much money do you make? Because you're on. My parents would never tell me. All that stuff was like, they don't need to know. That's none of their business. And you're still a kid, like you live in our house. You're going to do your laundry. You're going to make your bed. You're going to do your schoolwork. So like that. And again, it's that culture thing too, so it was always family first. And that they made sure of that. And that another good thing that I think I'm very lucky even having other siblings, and my parents sacrificed so much to always be wherever they could be. Like if my brother needed to go here, somebody went here with us, like, and my grandparents went with my other sister. So it's like, we always had somebody, we were never left alone. And they always were like hawks, like watching over everything, because in this industry, it can be crazy and people can take advantage. And, the good thing is that the one good thing about the Screen Actors Guild is that they do really watch out for the children. But I think where a lot of other kids maybe have had the misfortune is that, when the kids start making a lot of money, the parents just kind of do whatever the kid does, or they become friends. My parents were never my friends. Like now we're friends, but like when I was a kid, that's mom and dad. Yeah. So yeah.
This is a question that I ask all of our singers because I need the insider tips being a singer too. How, after all these years of performing and singing, and especially when you were in a musical group, and you do it now too, how do you keep your voice so healthy?
I vocalize every single day. No matter if I do a daily live stream because of COVID and just to stay engaged with followers and whatnot, like I don't sing like the whole show. It's just like a little like minute and 20 seconds because I just have guests and other stuff that come on my show. But I still vocalize. So vocalizing, it's just like you wouldn't just go running for 10 miles without stretching, right? So, but I will tell you that when you're touring, like as heavily as I was touring pre-COVID, like I would literally, because sometimes like when you do, let's say like state fairs, like you're like the headliner on the stage, you don't just do one 45-minute show, you do 3 45-minute shows in a day. And so like literally, I think not last summer, because that was COVID. So the year before, I think I did 28 days with no days off, doing 3 45-minute shows a day. Oh yeah. And which I love, but towards the end, no matter how much I was vocalizing, your body gets worn down, you get tired, you start getting hoarse. And so that's when I actually learned this from working with Ted Neely, who I don't know if you guys know from Jesus Christ Superstar. He's the OG Jesus from the Jesus Christ Superstar.
So it's a credible source.
Yeah. I mean, it's Jesus.
It's Jesus. Hello.
Pretty legit.
Yeah, legit. Like you just don't talk until you have to get up on stage. And so, and because, you can't, your doctor's not like in Idaho, wherever you're at. So it's just like literally the second I was done with the performance, I just don't talk for the rest of the night. I go to sleep. I try to sleep as much as you can. And then when you're done, like, then you have like, I think I had 5 days off and I would not talk for 5 days. But yeah, it is tough. So like any singer that's like, oh no, my voice is never, no, I mean, I just watched I love Shawn Mendes, and he has a Netflix docu, and same thing. Like he's like, oh my God, I can't sing.
And then Jennifer Hudson, who I love her voice. She's like, yeah, I don't warm up. I just walk on stage and sing for the first time when I'm on the Today Show at 6 a.m. I'm like, honey.
Oh God, no. I always feel bad like when I'm in hotel rooms, because you have to do a lot of those good morning, wherever you're at, like news shows, and they're never at a decent hour. It's like, you got to get up at 3:30 because the car is waiting for you at 4 and you're just like, oh my gosh. So I will be warming up, doing, like in the shower and probably waking everybody up. It is what it is.
Yeah,
gotta do what you gotta do.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, the strain, how tired you must be physically, and then your voice after all that touring. And you said over like 322 shows a year.
Yeah.
My goodness.
When do you rest in general?
In between shows, I can sleep anywhere and everywhere. But then because like I don't have an agent doing Twinkle Time stuff, like, so I'm answering emails and like falling asleep answering emails back. But I love it. And I never complain, because I'm just filled with gratitude that people give me opportunities, because it's hard to get to that place. And then it's really hard to keep it consistent. And so I'm always grateful, and I look at everything as like, oh, that's a blessing, like, so, and now I can't wait for it to get back, because I've had a really long year at home.
Right. Yeah.
There's only so many live streams you can do.
Yeah.
I just want to be out there and on again.
It's not the same performing. Like this is like where I'm at right now is my bedroom now turned into studio, and it's not the same doing a show to a camera to nobody.
Right.
That you're hearing claps and screams, and you're just like,
no, the energy level is not the same.
It's not the same, and like I'm turning in my socks, and I'm just like, it's all strange.
Yeah. Well, and it's like everyone's life flipped around, and to be like on the road most of the year, and then to be like, and now I'm home. Okay.
Yeah. Fully home. My animals are even weirded out, because before we'd leave all the time, and my parents would watch them, but they like, even just going to the grocery store, I wouldn't have to say bye. I just walk out, and because we've been home for like a year straight, like just going to the grocery store, I think they get like anxiety. Like, where are you going? Why are you leaving me?
Yeah. Where have you been?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh. So just prior to Valentine's Day, you released a new single, Love. Can you tell us more about that?
I love. It's such a good song. It's and I do everything in English and Spanish, so it was released in both English and Spanish. It's obviously it came out right before Valentine's Day, but it's not just for Valentine's Day. It's like the word love itself. There's a line in the song. It's like a magical word that needs to be sung and heard all over the world. And I just think that that's so important. We forget it. It's, a song about like accepting to unite everyone through music, which I think is key and super important, because like people around the world might not understand what you're saying, but they always just feel the emotion behind it. And I think everybody around the world knows what the word love is. So like, I think it's definitely relatable. It's got like a really cool kind of, a little hint, I think, like a new version of like a disco vibe that I love. And it's cool. It's obviously super pop. It's one of those songs that is like definitely more mainstream sounding. I'm 11. I actually just filmed a music video to it on Friday. So the video, and I have one more shoot. We're going to do something with green screen on Thursday. So once that's done, I'll let you guys know when it comes out.
Awesome.
I feel like Mask It Up also has kind of that disco funk vibe.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why, like that's kind of like what I'm feeling like lately, but like Mask It Up again. I wanted it to be different, and I love Mask It Up, by the way. I think it's fun. I'm like, okay, look, if we're going to be wearing catchy masks.
Yeah.
Thanks. And if we're wearing masks, we better look cute in them. Like my parents did not spend a lot of money on my teeth to be covered up.
I know. No one's seeing them.
I know. I love seeing people's smiles, like, I mean, eyes and smiles to me are like super important, but thanks. I love, so I was supposed to release an album last year, but it just didn't feel right with everything that was happening in the world. So, and because normally like when you release albums, it's like you get to tour them and then it's almost like then they hear it and then they can go to iTunes, or sometimes you can sell them at the show or whatever. But I was just like, right now, I think I'm just going to just keep putting out singles. Cause I mean, I literally heard this today, like people might not even be touring till 2022. I know. So I was just like, oh, we're just going to keep releasing songs. So
yeah. Well, and that's the way that like, who do I know has kind of exclusively been doing that? Dove Cameron.
Oh, I love her. Yeah.
She's exclusively just been releasing singles. She doesn't do albums. That's how she's been doing it, is just doing streams.
There you go. I mean, I think that's just like the new way. I think the only reason why I think people, I don't know if it's the only reason, but I think a reason why people do albums is because like when you're trying to submit to the Grammys or whatever, they want the album. But I think the Grammys kind of needs to kind of like get with the times because like, honestly, because especially they know that especially independent artists, like when they're funding everything themselves and there's no income coming in, you can't really have a full album. Like if there's no income coming in, because it like, you can record it, but then how are you going to promote it? How are you going to go on the road touring it? And having a publicist is like super expensive. So it's just like, they need to understand that people are just going to be releasing singles because that's the only thing. It's like, if you want to be considered to submit, you have to turn in a full album. So I think that's maybe one of the reasons. But and back when, like when an album used to be $20 or, you would wait for the album to come out. But now like people, like even the album's out, people like listen to the song and they just kind of buy whatever song.
They don't even buy the whole thing.
Yeah. So
what's the point?
What's the point?
What's the point anymore? For the Grammys?
Right, for the Grammys.
They need to calm down.
Exactly.
I love that you encourage everyone to learn and practice Spanish.
Aww.
Maybe it's a narcissistic reason because I'm learning and practicing Spanish, so I can just sing along to your songs since they're bilingual.
I love it.
I mean, I think that's such an important concept, that people should know more than one language in general. Because think about how many, it opens you up to so much more of population.
Exactly. Well, so again, my mom immigrated from Lima, Peru, and when I was born, she was very insistent that Spanish was going to be what we spoke at home. And she was the Latin mom that if you answered her back in English, she would let you know. And so, and the thing is, it's like, I'm so glad because like all my siblings, we speak it fluently, we write, we read, we do it all because, my grandparents, when they lived, they didn't speak a word of English. So we had to tell them everything in Spanish and we would teach them English. And so when I started doing this as Twinkle Time, I was doing I was always very inspired by Selena Quintanilla and Gloria Stefan and how they had these awesome crossover, both markets. And that's, as a kid, I always wanted to do that and was doing that and did a little here and there on Nobody's Angel albums. I'd throw a word in or whatever, but that was really important to me for kids because there's a lot of kids that maybe speak another language besides Spanish, but maybe their friends don't. And so I know growing up, kids would be like, I don't understand your mom. What is she saying? They would make it feel like I was weird or that it wasn't cool. So I was really adamant. I want to make sure that kids know that it's such an advantage, like you said, to be able to to speak both languages. It'll give you so many more opportunities too in life, in the work environment, or even if you're traveling. And the one thing my mom always used to say is, her growing up her whole life in Peru is in most countries, they speak more than 3 languages because they speak whatever their native language is. And then they're always taught English. It's not like an elective, we're here, we're oh, well, maybe I'll try French this semester. No, they have to learn English and a 3rd language on top of that. So I'm really thankful that that's how we did it, that's Spanish was actually my first language. So
yeah,
I think that's so great. I mean, Jen and I both did it in high school. Jen, did you do it in college too?
No, just high school.
Yeah. And I'm doing Duolingo, so I don't know how to do it, but I'm teaching my kids as I go because we're both doing distance learning, and it's well, I get to call the shots anyway. So, and it seems like the bilingual books are so much more accessible. You're seeing Green Eggs and Ham in Spanish at Target, and you'll see that in the dollar section and stuff. So I love that it's kind of coming to that point now where before it was just English everything because we're a melting pot in the US.
Exactly. And I think that's the beautiful thing. I mean, I live in LA where it's for sure a melting pot. All my friends, it's we're all different nationalities, and that's just how we were raised. It's it's not something new. It's just that's all we've ever known.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome. So not that we can actually make plans anymore, because I think that's what 2020 taught us. But if you were going to plan, what does the rest of 2021 look like for you?
Woof. That's a funny question. No. I feel where 2020 was just what you're just kind of spinning. I felt like Dorothy in a tornado, just that. I feel 2021, I've got a grasp on what I want to do now. And I'm okay, we've been there, and even though we're maybe still here, I have a little plan, right? I did learn don't make plans because I haven't even written in my planner. But I don't know if you guys know this, but an opportunity presented itself, and I'm like, I'm just going to roll with it. Right. I'm going to ride the wave. Opportunity presented itself. So now I'm like a radio DJ hosting and producing my own radio show.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's Jump 105.3 Pittsburgh. It's family music. But I'm going to change it up for people like you guys and everybody else. Like, you know, it's not going to be the same old music that we're used to listening to. And I'm going to be like, here's the deal. Like when I said I would do it, it was because even the one or two radio stations, like Radio Disney, like I love them. They were my home, but they even cater to just their like ancillaries, right?
Yeah.
So it's soundtracks, their TV shows, their artists. Like I get it, right? It's all like in-house. Every now and then they would slide something that wasn't theirs. But then there's like another radio show that play the same click, like if we were in high school, right? And it's the same people, it's the same kind of sound. And I'm like, but there's so many artists out there around the world that are doing amazing music that never get an opportunity. Right. So even though it's a brand new family radio station, and the owner plans on expanding it, and it just like debuted 3 weeks ago, I'm like, I'm going to use it as an opportunity to, you know, highlight music that I want to listen to, that I'm sure other people want to listen to, and also kind of uplift other artists, because that's kind of what it's all about, is like, you know, help, especially now, like when nobody can tour. I think that's super important. So that's what I'm doing. There'll be definitely more music, probably lots more singles happening. There's a lot of things that I always wanted to do with Twinkle Time, but because my livelihood relied on touring, that's what I concentrated on, and was like hustle, booking, calling, you know, being the agent, you know, wearing all those other hats that I didn't. And I was always on the road. I didn't have the time to do all the things I wanted to do. So this has kind of allowed me to like stop and be like, okay, now I can focus on this, and I can focus on this. So there'll be a lot of other things coming that we could chat about later, because they're not done yet, or almost done, haven't announced. But definitely new projects, new music, hopefully touring. But honestly, like just from what I've been hearing today, this morning, doesn't look like that's happening. So just taking it one day at a time. I think that's what 2020 has taught me, is, you know, all we can do really is to, and I keep saying this, but it's so true, is learn to make sweet lemonade out of some sour lemons and just ride that wave.
Add some sugar.
Exactly. Lots of sugar.
That radio show sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Is that something you can do from home? Like, do you have the setup to do it from home?
It is. I do from home. And I just did my third week just this past weekend. Okay. And I'm having fun. And it's weird because I am a fan of music. I get excited still by new songs that are played. I get excited when new artists come out. I get excited, like my friends would be like, oh my God, calm down. Like I'm that fan that would be like, at concerts, like going crazy. Right. But like, it's because I love what I do so much. And I know how hard people work to get to a certain place, and then how much harder you have to work to maintain to be there, that I still am like that little kid that gets excited. That's like when people like, you know, are like, oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm fangirling out, or, you know, whatever. I'm like, it's okay. I get you, because I'm the same way. I love all music. I don't have there's a lot of like radio people that it's their opinion of what is, you know, what they think is cool. That's another thing that like I want people to know. It's always somebody's opinion, you know, and your music might be amazing, but it's an opinion of somebody that is in control. But like, I want to give like everybody opportunities, and I love all music, and I love talking. And so I'm like, and I love kids. And I think that's important. That's like the most important. So I'm excited to see where this radio thing kind of goes. But with other things happening as well.
Well, that's just such a cool turn of events. Like it's too bad that touring was taken away, but look at this opportunity that was put into your lap. So you made sweet lemonade, sour lemons.
I did. I really did.
With lots of sugar.
With lots of sugar. Oh my gosh. Lots of sugar.
Oh gosh. Well, thank you so much for being on our show. It was so fun to chat with you. And I know you're super busy right now with all of your projects.
No, this is fun. It's cool to like see people and right? Instead of like just your little, camera. But no, thank you for doing this. This is so much fun.
Thank you. And you have to come back when
for sure.
The other things are happening.
The other quote unquote things. Yes.
Something I'm working on.
Right. Yes. All those things are happening.
Whenever I hear the teasers, like, something I'm working on, I'm like, just tell me what it is. Can you tell everyone where they can find you on the internet space?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So Instagram is my favorite platform. It's Twinkle Time and Friends. I am on TikTok randomly, but I'm going to get better at it. And it's Twinkle Time. It's just so much. It's a lot of work. And then Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, and Twitter is Twinkle Time. So just Twinkle Time. Look for orange hair is what I always say. Look for the orange hair and you'll find me. And then my website is Twinkle and Friends, although it's getting twinkleandfriends.com. It's getting a makeover and I'll post the makeover look soon, hopefully really soon. Trying to think what's another social platform. I think those are all the social. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you say YouTube?
Yes. YouTube, yes. Twinkle Time. And for anybody out there with it's for kids of all ages. So 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I do a daily live stream. Although I took today off because we were filming not all last week, but it was a lot to put together a video. So I took today off. But Monday through Friday, and it's like educational, it's bilingual, musical fun. So yeah.
All right. And there are lots of videos on there, lots of music videos, lyric videos, her streams. So make sure you check that out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much to all of you who are listening today. I hope you're having a great day, night, whatever you're doing, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye. Bye.